Welcome everybody to Departures Travel Lounge. This is Kathy Larson, co-owner of Sydney Departures Travel. And we have with us Kathy, co-owner of Sydney, as well as owner of the Oak Bay office. And we are very pleased to have with us Julie Corey from UnCruise Adventures. And she's going to be sharing with us the unique product that she represents. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. And thank you both for inviting me on. And for those who are listening and interested in learning about UnCruise Adventures. And we're just, going to keep it super casual and give you an idea of who we are. I would love to start off about how we all started, how kind of from concept, right, to where we are today. So I would say 25 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Dan Blanchard was a captain with another small ship cruise company. And he thought, if I had this company, you know what I would do? You know how that is, if you could do it differently. And he came up with this concept of small group travel, wilderness oriented, culture, authentic, backcountry, and really getting into the wilds and showing people his favorite spots at the time in Alaska 25 years ago. And then we've grown since then. So it's pretty awesome. I will just run through some really pretty images, talk about kind of who we are and how we do things a little bit different. So bravo to Departure Travel for introducing or even inviting us on. We really appreciate just being able to share a little bit of our story. We love to say small boats, big adventure. And in the travel world, there's a myriad of adventure, right? From no adventure whatsoever, kicking back on some beaches or just enjoying some leisurely time, to extreme adventure. And UnCruise Adventures fits into that soft adventure bucket, meaning anybody can do it. And we'll talk about what types of adventure we do on our vessels. But this is a really classic scene of ours up in Alaska. Our home office is in Seattle, Washington. We're based right at Fisherman's Terminal. And that's where all 9 of our vessels hang out until they're ready to take off into some of the destinations that we go to. So talk about just sort of the 3 pillars of UnCruise Adventures. The first, of course, is in our name, adventure. And I mentioned we're soft adventure, but we're for the client that really wants to get out, do something. They're not tourists. They don't want to be in the mainstream. They want to get out and touch and feel and explore, again, do some activities. So even though we sail on small boats, we're not port centric. And that's important to understand with certainly our style of travel. Also extremely popular in light of what's going on in the industry right now with COVID. So getting into that backcountry, just really separating and enjoying and taking in what the area has to offer. Place. Another pillar is place. And because we're not port centric, we pride ourselves in getting into really remote areas that tourists wouldn't normally get into. So finding those tiny islands, those narrow passageways, getting our feet wet, kayaking, just walking along the beach and shores and hunting from whatever Mother Nature brings in. So it's really important to our program is to find some really great areas that you wouldn't otherwise find. And the last of the pillars is connection. And this is everything from the locals to underwater to just connecting with the vibe, the true authentic vibe of the area. And because we're not port centric, we get into some really awesome places. And I love to say Mother Nature dictates our schedule, right? So wherever Mother Nature is, wherever that wildlife, wherever the really unique stuff is, that's where we're going. We have no schedule, so we're really hunting and doing some great things right from the decks of the ship. So that's just sort of a flavor of who we are. And when I talk about that soft adventure, on every day, we have a team of expedition leaders, and they are really the first voice you hear in the morning and the last voice you hear in the evening, we take all of our adventurous toys with us. We have our kayaks and our paddle boards, our snorkeling gear, uh, beautiful nature walks, hiking, exploring, and just getting into the really great areas. And on the upper left image here, it's might be a little bit hard to see, but that's the aft of one of our vessels, the Safari Voyager. And that kayak is actually sitting, the one that's right next to the vessel, is sitting on a kayak launch pad. So this is really cool. This is not only important because we take all the hard part out of kayaking, right? Getting in and out of the kayak, but it allows us to drop the kayaks anywhere. So if our captain and crew find a really awesome place to paddle, we get out there. But if you've never kayaked before, or it's been a long time, our staff teaches you. We always have a 101 course. Again, that's what makes it soft adventure. Getting out in those zodiacs, even though our ships are small and nimble, to get in these zodiacs or these small inflatable boats, like that upper middle image, is so key to explore and see some of the great bird life and some of the great water marine life that's abound. So much to do, but we'll always have a morning of activities and an afternoon of activities. Our expedition leaders will talk about our activities, and then they'll go to each one of our guests on board and take their adventure order. And that's pretty cool because you get to customize your day however you would like it. You could do as much or as little as you like, and it's all included. So you don't have to wonder if you should or you shouldn't. It's just really a great, if you want to or not, and if you feel like exploring, but everybody really takes great advantage of what we do on board. So just for our time together, I'm going to concentrate on these areas here, mainly because in light of what's going on with COVID. We are a US based company, and we can leave right out of a US port. So our vessels, as I mentioned, are headquartered in Seattle. So these are the places that we're going to really concentrate on through 2020 and into 2021. Certainly all the Mexico Sea of Cortez, Belize, Guatemala, Colombia, the Costa Rica, Panama, and Galapagos are going to be part of the program, and certainly reach out to Departures Travel if you're interested in those. But for the sake of the presentation, I'm going to just stick with these itineraries because we do have those. Now, I know many of the listeners are from our friends up north in Canada. So we are departing in 2020, and on August 1st, we have 4 departures up in Alaska. We happen to have a ship in Juneau, so it really makes it nice and easy for us. The vessel only holds 60 passengers, so we're going to sail up in Alaska in August. And I know the limited travel for the Canadians is apparent, and so I probably won't talk again about Alaska just for 2020. I'll introduce it for 2021, and the Pacific Northwest, a great drive market. Once we open those borders, just come right down to Seattle if you're curious about that. So we'll talk about our 2021 program with both of those. But for 2020, if you are interested in our borders open up and our travel comes back in furious, which it tends to do, we have our Hawaii program, and that is going to start on December 5th. So if you're looking for a getaway for the holidays, or if you'd love to always go to the Hawaiian Islands, or if always wanted to go, we have a really special program down there. It's on our 36 passenger vessel. It's only 18 cabins. It's pretty awesome. It's like having your own private yacht down there. We concentrate on those 7 days on 4 islands. So because we're small, you would fly to either Kona or Molokai. And then we also sail into Lanai and Maui. So 4 islands, 7 days, no unpacking or packing. But we choose these islands in a very UnCruise way. There's lots of uns with UnCruise. Certainly we're a cruise line, but we don't act like a big ship in so many ways. And you heard a couple of them with not being port centric. Well, Hawaii is no exception. So we have some really cool programs that we do in Hawaii, and And a lot of them, I mentioned all the great activities we do, and a really key one is snorkel. Snorkel gear is issued to everybody on board. Again, it's part of the program. There's no cost to it, but it allows you to see over 50% of Hawaii that you may miss staying out of the water. So we really encourage everybody to get into the water, to check out the marine life, because we get you to some pretty awesome areas. And if you haven't snorkeled in a while, much like kayaking, our expedition team will teach you how to do so and even hold your hand. Make sure you're comfortable in the water, because that's the whole idea of getting into the backcountry. We'll have all of the great toys we do on all of our vessels. So we're going to have our kayaks down there, our zodiacs, checking out the marine life. The Maui County Islands that consist of Molokai, Lanai, and Maui are really important to our program, because that's where there's the humpback whale sanctuary. And I talk about nature dictates our schedule. Certainly during the winter time, there's an abundance of humpbacks mating and giving birth into this area. So it's a really big part of what we do. You heard me mention Molokai. Well, that's pretty awesome. We're the only tour operator that's been invited into this gorgeous island. We really deem this our cultural island. We have a local family that takes us on a great walk to the Halawa Valley. We talk about the subsistence, how living in Molokai, what do you do, the traditions, all of those things. So it's really an authentic trip and a beautiful one. So if you're looking for a little getaway, it's on the Safari Explorer. I mentioned 36 guests, only 18 cabins. And super casual, everything you need, nothing you don't. And there's there's another in UnCruise. It's extremely casual. When I say casual, it's shorts, t-shirts, it's no dress up nights. If you would like to, you're welcome to, but most everybody is uber casual on board. Our seating, our dining is come sit where it's open, sit with whomever you'd like. We realize friends are formed very quickly on board. So we like to keep that casual atmosphere. And here's just a couple of photos of our cabins. They're all outside. In fact, entire fleet are outside cabins because of the size of our vessels. So great view windows. Again, everything you need and nothing that you don't. So I'm going to launch right into 2021. Because I think this might be a really great way to see more images of what we do, but also some areas that are relatively close to some of the listeners that are on today. So we have 6 vessels that sail in Alaskan waters, and to sail with UnCruise Adventures, you would fly up to the Inside Passage. We have 4 departures that are 7-night, 8 days, and we have 2 departures that are 12-night, 13-day. Now, we choose the Inside Passage for many, many reasons. But one, it's extremely protected in these waters. Our ships range from 22 passengers to 86 passengers. That's only 11 cabins to 43 cabins. But the abundance of marine life, wildlife, glacial activity, the hikes and walks and exploration blows you away. Everything and every reason you would want to go to Alaska is on all of our vessels when we sail there. We're there April through September. We're the first vessels that arrive up in Alaska and the last to leave. So it is our home. You would either fly into Juneau, Sitka, or Ketchikan and sail these gorgeous waters. I did put on a few images just to give you an idea of what it might look like. So the left image there is one of our hikes. So on a given day, if we offer our walks or nature walks, we'll always offer 3 different levels, which is pretty awesome. You can get up there and choose whichever one you want. It's based on what you would like to do that day and certainly what you would like to see. They're all guided by our expedition leader, especially if you're a photographer, you would love it. And look at the places that we go to. This is very classic. We call it bushwhacking. We get into the backcountry. We see what Mother Nature has blown in for us. We get our feet wet. We wear the Alaskan tennis shoe, which is, of course, the rubber boot. And we just have a grand time. Our nature walks and hikes are really one of the most popular things that we do next to our kayaking. but also getting to no shore excursion lines. There's another for you. You see everything from the decks of the ship or on the activities that you do with UnCruise, which is really awesome. So you can start to get a feel of how we are different. Glacier Bay National Park is always part of our itineraries. We have such a great relationship, and we know the park. Some of our captains know the park better than they know their own DNA, because it is just such a beautiful area. We know all the hidden wonders. We have 6 vessels up there, so they're all talking to each other and checking out the areas that we go to. So it is a beautiful place to get up and not only see the gorgeous Marjorie Glacier, which you see there in the lower left, but to get out in your kayak and paddle in front of the glacier, go for a nature walk and get into a high spot and just check out the abundance of beauty that Glacier Bay has to offer. Just simply beautiful. And then I just took a bunch of photos of wildlife, because this is what you'll likely see on every trip with UnCruise Adventures, either again from the vessel or from any one of our activities. This is not a, ooh, maybe. This is most every trip. So it's pretty awesome. Again, those who are listening that love photos, whether you shoot photos from your camera or from a DSLR, it doesn't matter. There's just, or maybe just imprinting it in your mind. It's pretty special what we do up in Alaska. So all of those departures are available through Departures Travel, and they will definitely get you hooked up on the right vessel and the right itinerary if Alaska's on your bucket list. So this is very new for us for 2021. We've always sailed in the Pacific Northwest, round trip out of Seattle. Again, a really good drive market for those who just want to head down across the border. But this is really a special one for us. This is our Salish Seas and the San Juan Islands adventure. And this is going to be round trip out of Seattle. And it's really a special trip for us because it's right out of our backyard. Our home office is in Fisherman's Terminal. So to be able to just sail right out of our backyard is pretty cool. And here's our Wilderness Legacy. You see her go through the Hiram Locks there out of Ballard, for those of you who are familiar with that area. So it's pretty awesome to start a cruise right out of Fisherman's Terminal in that fresh water as we enter into salt water. And then of course you see the Seattle skyline there, which is really beautiful as we navigate. So just some highlights of this itinerary. Again, we're going to have all the great nature walks that we have on all of our vessels. You get to choose whichever one you would like, but really beautiful. And it's much like your country up in BC and some of the great areas in Canada as a whole. So it's really beautiful area to explore, especially if you love to get out and get a paddle in. If you've never been to this area and really have always wanted to paddle, again, everything is guided by our expedition leaders. Getting out in those great Zodiacs or stand-up paddleboards, if that's what you love as well. So pretty awesome itinerary. Deception Pass, gorgeous pass that just brings in, because of all the great tidal activity and how it narrows down into that area, just a tremendous amount of sea life, sea anemones, sea stars, harbor seals, all the things that you can imagine. And of course, there is the great seascape that we get to see when we're there. And getting into the Susha Islands and I put a little map on the slide here because I have not been there. I was born and raised in Washington State, and I'm dying to go. And this is the image to the right of those islands. So this island is inhabited of a whopping 4 people. They're almost like finger islands, and to explore via nature walks or kayaking is killer. It really is a beautiful area. You can imagine without a lot of human activity, the abundance of marine life and wildlife that gets to these islands. So it's a crowd favorite, not only for our crew on board, but certainly for all of our guests. So that's just a little glimpse into our 5-night, 6-day Pacific Northwest. and our Rivers of Adventure and Wine. This is a 7-night, 8-day right out of Portland, Oregon. So maybe you've driven the Columbian Snake River, but I'm telling you, there's nothing like getting on a vessel and cruising. I'm sure you have something similar in Canada, but for me, I live in Arizona, and people always visit the Grand Canyon, but there's nothing like getting in a river raft or raft and rafting the Grand Canyon. You really see it. So I feel the same way with our Columbian Snake River. There is such an abundance to do this. This, to me, is probably our most diverse itinerary, from the wines to the great history to the engineering of the lock and dam systems to the native of the Nez Perce. Great history there as well. So a lot to do. We river raft on this itinerary, again, all included. But remember, when you go with UnCruise, you're getting that backstage pass into all that we do. We're anything but mainstream. It's just not in our DNA to be mainstream. We always find really unique areas. And it's not only important to see the area with UnCruise, but taste your way through the area, right? You got that great food, that farm to table food, great wines and beers and kombucha, and just some great things along the river, and getting in that backstage pass, tasting, getting into the caves, all of those things. Here's our Wilderness Discoverers. This is the largest vessel of our fleet of our 9 ships. And she is the only one with an elevator. So it works out great if you're going to drink a lot, I'm just kidding, kind of. So it is really a great vessel to cruise on the river. She's also up in Alaska, so she just is one of our favorites, and we keep her very, very busy. But this is along the river. You can imagine from Portland the lush green, and then as we cruise through to Idaho, you start hitting that high desert, which you see some of the backdrop there on the Wilderness Legacy of what that might look like. But getting into Astoria, we river raft down the Deschutes. Now this is included, and I gotta say, it's pretty bona fide. It's one of those river rafting trips that you feel like, hey, I actually like river raft. There's some pretty legit rapids, but it's also a beautiful float trip. So everybody ends up on it, and it's really one of those great ways to see the river. We go into the Bonneville Dam, so if the whole lock and dam system is of interest, this is definitely would be a great cruise for you, because we really understand. To the right is our fish ladder, not an actual dam, but it's our fish ladder that's there. But we have a behind the scenes tour of Bonneville Dam too, which really makes it nice. And this is on the left. This is the great terrain that we get to go into, nature walks, whether we're walking on the Rowena Plateau, whether we're at Palouse Falls, or even in Multnomah Falls, getting that leg stretch, checking out the beautiful basalt walls and water running through it. It's pretty exciting. And again, we always have a different level of hikes throughout. And the photo on the right is the bow of the Wilderness Legacy going through one of the locks. So we go through a series of 8 lock and dam systems, which is pretty cool. They're all really unique, so it's really fun to check out. So let's check out the Wilderness Legacy. I mentioned she's the largest of our fleet. She has a little different flair to her than our adventure vessels. She looks different. Our fleet is quite diverse, but she really has such a unique flair to her. On the upper left, because she has that rounded after stern to her, we couldn't get a kayak launch pad on her. So we created a smaller vessel that we drag behind her. And the name of that smaller vessel is the Sea Dragon. See what we did there? Sea Dragon, because we drag her in the sea. So it is pretty awesome. We do all of our activities there, from our kayaks to our Zodiacs. It's really, really a well-oiled machine. We do a great job. And the cabins that you can book on her is everything from, we have an owner suite on her, to the upper left is our smallest cabin on this vessel. But again, all outside cabins. You can certainly request your cabin to have two singles or go into a queen where they'll bring them together. Some cabins are fixed doubles or fixed queen, but again, our friends at Departures can help you with all that great detail. And then the last is our Hawaiian Islands. I mentioned it starts on December 5th. It's going to go through May 1st. I introduced that because we're starting that in 2020. But it is truly one of those magical places. If you really want to see the authentic Hawaii, if you really want to go see the whales, I would suggest that January, February, March time where they're mating and giving birth during this area. And that is all they're doing. They're not eating. They're not doing a doggone thing. So when they get back up to Alaska or cold water, that's when we get to see all that tremendous feeding activity and get to see all the great stuff from the decks of the vessel. Life on board, well, I've already mentioned it's extremely casual, but there's a couple of images that are worth kind of taking a closer look here. One in particular is where you see the two Kathys and myself on the upper right hand of the screen. You see some of our guests out on deck. We're only one story from the waterline, and that's why we get such great views of the marine life. In fact, all of our decks, our vessels aren't built where there's suites blocking the decks. They're all wrap around. It makes it really beautiful, especially for social distancing, getting out into the open. If there's an abundance of whales, everybody can see it, so everybody can participate. We do have an open bridge policy, which is really fun. It's not only fun for our guests, but certainly for our crew. We invite our guests to come up and help us spot wildlife. All the eyes on wildlife is always welcomed because that's what we're looking for first and foremost. But if you're just interested in charting and navigation and how it all works and how life on board works, they're happy to share all of that with you. In the middle image on the left-hand side of that lovely gal in the hot tub, we do have hot tubs by design on our outer decks. And I have to tell you, after a day or a morning or an afternoon of kayaking, maybe a nature walk, and then going to grab your favorite, I don't know, Alaskan amber if you're up in Alaska, or a cup of coffee if you're down in Columbian Snake River, and just watch the world go by. It's truly a treasure. It's really a fantastic, fantastic thing to do. Our food, this is one of my favorites. And if we get we get a lot of amazing comments, but I got to tell you, our food is pretty awesome. And mainly because it is all farm to table, which is pretty awesome that we can do that, but we're small vessels. So we buy locally, we source locally. All of our produce is all locally sourced. So if you love that farm to table, if you love that really fresh, whatever's in season we are preparing on board the vessel, this would be a huge highlight for you. And not only with the food, but with the spirits that we have on board, with the beer and the spirits that we have on board, we really try to source locally too. So if you're on the Columbian Snake River, you're going to taste a lot of Pacific Northwest beers and wines. Or if you're up in Alaska with us, we source from a great distillery in Haines that has some wonderful beverages. So we may say, well, we'd love to give you that Stolies on the rocks, but would you like to try something else? And it's all included. You can have as much or as little if you like, whether it's the food or the alcohol on board. So makes it really nice. So I'm here to tell you that all those calories that you lost on our daily activities, we will absolutely put them right back on you at the end of the night with our baker on board. We have some pretty awesome stuff, that not only the great desserts that you see, but our breads and that we have, from our morning danishes to our afternoon to our evening rolls. It's just pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. But you can have as much or as little as you like, of course. So I talked a lot about what's included and what's not included. So I just put together a list just to give you an idea of what I meant when I said included. So all the activities, shore excursions, and presentations are included. Entry fees into national parks, preserves, and monuments, because we go into a lot of them, are included. The narration of our expertise of our expedition guides and our heritage guides on the river are included. Meet and greet, day of embarkation and disembarkation, and baggage handling are included. All of our onboard meals, as well as off the vessel. So our crew in Hawaii, for instance, packs in a beautiful lunch as we go into the Halava Valley, and we have it along the river there, which is pretty fun. Or on the Columbian Snake River, we may go into some great wineries that will have food pairings. So just all of that is taken care of. There's no additional cost there. I mentioned our non-alcoholic and our alcoholic beverages are included. And we have some really great wellness amenities. You may have seen in a shot prior of some great stretching out on deck. Most of our expedition leaders are also expert or trained in some sort of stretching or yoga. And we love to do a sunrise stretch in the morning because we're using some muscles maybe we haven't used in a while. So it's always great to get out there and watch that great sunrise come up. Or in Alaska, because the sun comes up so early, it might not be sunrise, it might be sun mid-rise, but it is really beautiful to get up in the morning. The hot tub, we do have a few exercise equipments on board if you feel like you haven't gotten enough exercise. And then we also and talk about the stretches, but a lot of people love to just take a yoga mat and just go up on the upper deck and just have some great stretch on their own time. What's not included is certainly a much shorter list, is our port charges and fee. Any gratuities you would like to extend out to our vessel crew. I mentioned that you do need to fly to our destination, so that airfare would be in addition. And of course, our experts at Departures know all about the travel protection plan. So I'm sure they would set you up beautifully there. That was not included. Now, our primary demographics are couples ages 55 to 75, but very, very close to that are solos and families. And I'll talk in order of the slide here. So solo travel is really big for us because it allows the single traveler to not only spend that great time exploring by themselves and really taking in the great nature, but it also allows them to be part of a group too, should they like to. And it's a really popular demographics for us. We also have single cabins on board our vessels. They're not huge, they are single cabins, but they're really, they sell out very quickly. So I suggest if you love our style of travel and if you love traveling solo, please reach out to the team there because they do go very quickly. Family travel is really popular with us as well because everybody's learning. It's a multi-gen wonderment, from parents to kids to grandparents to grandkids and everybody in between. And our crew loves when families get on. However, we do limit the kids on board. So if you do have a family and you are looking for this great family time, especially if you have families that are through COVID right now, you like traveling as families, we've got our great 22 and 36 passenger vessels that are chartered to families. Some are almost 50% of the time because it's a great way to get out. So we've seen a lot of uptick on those two vessels with charters just for that reason. So milestone birthdays, anniversaries, retirements, just being together, what a great way to go. So any of those, solo to families to groups to charters, again, the lovelies at Departure Travels could definitely help you work through all of that. We do have some specials, and I'm just going to, I won't leave this up too long, just know that we do, if you're curious, they will look at them. And we love to say that we've been social distancing since 1996. And I took out social there because we are extremely social company. We just are distancing right now. And we love doing that. I mean, getting out in our kayaks, exploring in nature, backcountry, small groups. It's what we do. And we're just really proud to keep it going and really through, especially during this time where this has been so important for so many people. And speaking of COVID, I know you heard me that we're starting sailings up in Alaska on July 25th. And then with a charter, and then we're selling into some FIT space through the whole month of August. So we, like all companies out there, have put together a really robust protocol. Even though I say we social distance, there's still some great things that we need to be very prudent about. We take it very, very seriously. Alaska does have a 72-hour COVID testing, so we've got all that in order for our guests that are going up to Alaska this summer, and then we'll just continue that. You know, I think it's just going to be the new normal, right, for us in travel, that we should all be washing our hands anyway, right? So just know that's available. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Kathy. And I just personally want to say thank you. I know it's short and sweet, and I love that you give your audience a glimpse of awesome and unique companies. So I bow down to you for educating your audience on really unique stuff. And I'm really pleased and proud to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thanks, Julie. It's been a pleasure to watch the slides and your presentation. You have a fantastic voice. I could listen to you all day, and I just realized we've gone a few minutes overtime, which is fine because we're not stuck to a rigid schedule, but it just went so quick. I'm shocked. The other piece that I had to laugh is I could see when we were going through the Hawaii presentation, Kathy Larson's eyes were just sparkling. I could see her getting quite excited. So I think you've got some really wonderful itineraries, and the whole fact is right now, of course, we can't trans-border, we can't do travel across the border, but that will pass. And when we can, this is just a really great product for Canadians. I think just the smaller ships, the little bit more adventure, but soft adventure, it looks like a really fantastic product. What do you think, Kathy?
I think it looks fantastic. And yeah, I will be booking that Hawaii one.
I saw that. I was wondering if you had your credit card out already looking at that. We had some good questions too from some of the audience that we'll follow up on later. And other than that, just want to say thank you so much again, Julie, for coming on and entertaining us and giving us some exciting things to think about while we're hurrying up and waiting. Travel again.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Julie.
Having your guests on board.
Well, thanks so much. And thank you everybody for joining us today. It's always wonderful to have so many of you joining and watching live. We also get a lot of people that sign on later and watch the videos. So if you do have any friends that maybe missed out, please have them go on to our Facebook Live page and you'll find it there as a recording. And next week we are having Peter from Crystal Cruises coming on and giving us a little more of a luxury approach to cruising. So we will enjoy his presentation as well. So thanks again, Julie, and we'll sign off now, and goodbye to everybody. Thanks so much. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.